Welcome to Marcor Studios, where here we will be interviewing different industry professionals and educating our homeowners as well as the industry as a whole. Hope you enjoy the show. All right, welcome to Marcor Studios. We are here today with Miriam Hubbard from PBI Payroll. Thank you so much for being here today with us.
Thank you for having me.
So we've been using you guys for quite some time, and we met at the Herald at the Family Business Awards that we both coincidentally won the same night. And I kept your card, and I had just done a payroll switch, and I said, please don't make me go through this again. And we obviously know that that's not really, it's not painless.
Right.
So when I kept your card and you just left such an impression on me, and it was probably one of the best decisions I made here was switching over to you guys. A lot of issues with some payroll companies and not being attentive. And you guys have just been magical from day one. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
And it's been a while now that we're with you. So talk to me about what your role is at PBI. What is, what's your involvement? How'd you get into payroll?
It's a loaded question. So I've been in the HR space for a long time.
Okay.
Started in time and labor management, so strictly time clocks, hand punch terminals, that environment. Had worked with payroll companies across Long Island and the city to integrate our platforms with the payroll companies.
Okay.
And over time, payroll companies started bringing in their own time and labor product, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Have an all-in-one scenario. And the company that I had been with sold, and was not staying with the current owner for personal reasons, not staying with the current owner. And so I had my opportunities at other companies, but I knew what my clients were saying about PBI. And it had been consistent across the board. Clients and business professionals that I worked with all said the same thing about PBI, and it was consistent. And my experiences with PBI, they were responsive to anything my technicians needed, anything I needed.
I can second that.
And you can second that. So that, started a conversation with PBI, and I transitioned over to them almost 13 years ago. July will be 13 years.
Beautiful.
And so I started as sales, strictly sales, moved up to sales management, and from there ended up taking over operations and overseeing client service, and still doing the business development side of things.
And you do a fantastic bang-up job, and your whole team does.
I have an amazing team behind me. Yeah.
I love like some of the things we've invented as far as like the verbal third, third three-factor authentication. Now what we've added. And everybody calls me, wait, was this you? Okay, did you make sure this payroll changed? All right, what's the password?
Yeah, exactly.
And I made sure it was something funny that every time Chris has to laugh.
Yeah.
So, talk to us about a big confusion in the construction industry, or many industries, but mainly in construction, is a lot of people say, nope, this person's a 1099 or this person's a W-2.
Yeah.
When do we verify, or when do we differentiate one versus the other?
So it's clearer than some people think it is. An independent contractor directs their own work. They direct when they're going to show up at a site, what time they're going to be there, what jobs they're going to work on, what their own equipment. It's very specific. They have to have an investment in this. A profit and loss is on them, not on the employer.
Are they required to have workers' comp?
They are, if they're handed, if they're working on a job site.
If they're working on a job site, but that's more of like a subcontractor.
Yeah, subcontractor.
But I think where the confusion comes in the industry is like salespeople. A lot of companies in the construction industry, the company will set the appointment for the sales rep but pay them as a 1099, and technically you're directing them to be at an appointment at a certain time. They are not qualified as 1099.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're required to be at a meeting or a training. You can say, hey, we have this optional training.
Exactly.
You can't make it mandatory if they're 1099.
Correct.
The second you instruct them to say, you have to be here, or you have to run this appointment, or you're doing this, this.
They're an employee.
You are now no longer a 1099. And you also have to have the ability to do it for other companies. You can't just do it exclusively for one company.
Exactly. Your majority of your income cannot be coming from one environment as a 1099. Yeah.
And those are Department of Labor.
Those are direct. Yeah, absolutely.
And now W-2, we've got two sides of W-2. We've got your hourly employees, and then you've got your salaried employees, and there's different qualifications there. So We've got your hourly employees that we know have to, any of your manual labor, they cannot be paid by the day.
Right.
Any manual labor has to be hourly. Yep. They have to get overtime.
Yep.
Talk to us about the snafus you're seeing there between people wanting to get paid by the day versus the hour, people not being paid overtime properly, and then also the minimum salary thresholds and requirements with New York State, with the Department of Labor, both state and federal.
Yeah.
We've got regulations as well that people don't realize that. For example, you can have an admin in the office and you say, okay, they make $55,000 a year and they're answering phones. Is that an hourly employee or is that salaried? And a lot of the times people are putting them as a salaried person when they don't actually meet the New York State requirements.
Right.
So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So you can actually do salary. I think where the confusion comes in is exempt, non-exempt. So someone who's exempt is exempt from overtime, but they have to meet a certain threshold. And New York State has been increasing that threshold. Federal also has this threshold, but New York State's is higher. So when the state and the federal have it, you're going with the state regulation.
Sure. So right now it's
higher.
64 and change.
It's 64 and change annually.
And that's inclusive of if you were to work overtime. You have to still track those numbers. So if you have somebody that's 64.5, let's say, they've still got to work, track their hours, because if they work, let's say 60 hours a week, and they're not making they're maxing out what their minimum wage would be with overtime, you're now in a violation.
Well, if they're truly an exempt employee and they're making that minimum threshold as an exempt employee.
But they have to check the other boxes, obviously.
Yes, there's other boxes to check. Then it doesn't matter how many hours they work, because they're not entitled to overtime at that point. But again, then there's a test to see if they really qualify as an exempt employee. So there's administrative duties, the right to hire and fire. There's professional exemptions on that.
The ability to make managerial decisions.
Yes. Without, work without direction. All these factors fall into an exemption versus non-exempt. Yeah. So you can put somebody on salary at a lower amount, but they have to track their hours. And if they work over 40 hours, you have to pay them time and a half.
Correct.
So I have seen that occur too.
And those are Department of Labor violations that definitely expose a company.
Absolutely.
No matter what. And we've all seen that in the industry. Yeah. But I think the biggest obstacle we're seeing in construction is people being either thinking like, okay, I'm paying a working foreman, he gets a salary and he's making $85,000 a year. And he has the right to hire and fire these guys, and he has, his minimum vacation, his whatever his requirement. Okay, he's got 5 vacation days. He's got 5, which are not required, but 5 vacation days. Maybe he's got the 5 required sick days.
Right.
But he's a performing manual labor. Now he cannot be a salaried employee.
Right.
He has to be an hourly employee. Right. And those are what we're seeing industry wide. That people say, okay, he gets this much a day or this much as a salary, and it's biting him in the butt, because all of a sudden you get one disgruntled employee that goes to Department of Labor, and then they say, hey, but this is how they're paying everybody. They're not just going after that. They're going through the whole company.
And they're going back 6 years. If it's through the state, it's going back 6 years. Federal goes back 3.
Yeah. It's scary stuff.
So, and even we were touching on the independent contractor versus employee, one thing that will trigger an audit there is if an independent contractor gets hurt on the job and then files for workers' comp.
Yeah.
And they'll file against the employer's workers' comp, or they file for unemployment or whatever. And they're saying, I got paid this amount. And that's where it comes in that they were paid as a 1099, where they should have been paid as an employee. Now that opens up for audit. It opens up for, I need to see all your employees. I need to see how they're getting paid. I need all this payroll data. And again, state will go back 6 years.
Yeah. It's scary stuff. But I mean, I think what's unfortunate in the construction industry is that not enough people realize what's involved. And now the end user we're dealing with is our homeowners, right? So how does it affect our customer? How does it affect our homeowner? It doesn't affect them directly.
Right.
Indirectly it can, because if all of a sudden you've got a company that gets hit by the Department of Labor and they cannot fulfill what those penalties are at, upwards of $250,000,
right,
and they can't recover from something like that, that does affect that homeowner now, because now that business is now in jeopardy of going out of business, and they could be mid-project with you.
Yep.
And you have no idea what's happening behind the scenes until your project's halfway done and the company goes belly up.
Right.
Are you seeing, what are you seeing in the construction industry overall? Are you seeing a lot of people just not understanding how to do it the right way?
Yeah, they don't understand it. Usually when they come to us, that's when the questions start coming up because they've never even been told. And they're not getting the greatest advice. A lot of it, even the best of CPAs, don't always understand all the complexities of the DOL regulations, which that's not their world. They're not supposed to. But a lot of people think that they would, and they don't. So when they're coming to us, a lot of times it's things they've never heard of before as we're getting them implemented.
Are you seeing that the biggest time that people are realizing it and doing it right is in a reactive way?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Totally reactive way. They get a notice and what do I do? And then it opens up the questions. Well, what are you doing? And
I mean, that's what I'm seeing is the scariest part in this industry is like the guys, okay, I make this much a day or I get a salary of X. And I'm like, but you're doing manual labor. You can't be a salaried employee. I have to pay you hourly. Well, I don't want to be paid. I want to be paid by the day. I want to clear this a day. Like, no, that's not how this works, guys.
Right.
Like, you legally have to take your lunch break. You legally have to do X, Y, and Z. There's certain things that we as an employer are legally required to do. And until I brought in an employment attorney, you guys as our payroll company, an outsourced HR firm, and a corporate attorney and the accountant, and got all 5 of you on the same page and my insurance company in the middle of it to get those ducks in a row, it took me a couple of years to do. And a lot of money.
Yep.
And unfortunately, not a lot of people want to make that investment. And it wasn't a matter of, hey, we're growing and this is what we needed to do. It was, I don't care how big or small I am. If I had a team of 2 people, these are still the laws you have to. And, you know, we've seen it in other businesses where you can have 6 or 8 employees and one person finds out that they had a Department of Labor suit and they got a 6-figure payout and it didn't cost them any money except a third of their claim. They're all dropping the dominoes, and you're going to have a class action against you very quickly.
We've seen it in other environments that with the biweekly versus weekly mandate. So any manual worker is supposed to be paid weekly. Yeah. That's been in effect since I think the 80s. Warehouse employees, manual, and in supermarkets they had class action suits happening because employers were paying biweekly. And they were supposed to be weekly. And they were getting paid their total amount. So the employees weren't owed any money, but New York State ended up holding up some cases and causing the employer to pay an additional 26 weeks of pay, which was a windfall for the employees.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been rescinded. Governor Hochul put in slipped in a little bit a bill recently that that basically it's going to be the penalties and interest. It's not going to be liquidated damages for that particular scenario, as long as the employees were paid appropriately.
Yep.
But the recommendation then is to change an employer to weekly pay.
Yep.
We constantly go through this. If we see an environment where it's even questionable, we don't want to see them get hit, even with fines and penalties, which could only be a small amount of money. So why do you want to open yourself up to it?
Why do you want to be exposed?
Right.
So you bring up some new bills. Talk to us about what are some new things that you're seeing?
Yeah, so in 2025, a few things came out. The COVID sick pay is actually going away as of July.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Finally.
And then we're the last state to hold that, to hold on to that.
It's about time.
So that's going away. But we now have prenatal leave for any employer. So it entitles 20 hours of paid prenatal leave during a 52-week period. So it's going to be a rolling period, which is interesting because obviously people get pregnant at different times of the year. So it is paid 20 hours, and the employers have to honor that. Now, that's
for the employee that is pregnant, not the spouse.
Correct.
So now that covers if they have to go to the doctor, if they have to go for a sonogram, or whatever they have to do.
Exactly.
HIPAA violations, we cannot ask the questions, but they are entitled to that time.
Yep.
And it caps out at,
20 hours. And it's separate from any other accrued time.
That's nothing
relief. Nothing with the sick, not paid family leave, none of that. Yep, some minimum wages did go up, which most people already know. So $16.50 an hour is the minimum wage per hour, and the salary thresholds increase each year. Yep. So that it's something they take a look.
64.5, I think, was this
year. Yep, and it's just going to keep increasing.
So if you don't make at least a minimum of $64,500, you should be punching a time clock and making sure that you are getting paid. If you're working over 40 hours, that you're getting paid your overtime.
Yeah, correct. And also, jury duty pay went up.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So
I love being an employer.
So, well, if
nothing's favorable to us
no. No, but it went up to only $70 a day if you're not getting paid your normal salary.
Yeah.
So it's still below minimum wage. I don't know how they get away with that, but we know the state's exempt from its own rules at times. So
For sure.
it went up from 40 to 70. And there is a chart online for jury duty for employees to know where they're entitled, or employers to know how they have to pay. So if an employer pays the daily wage, then it takes you through a chart. Yes, what? I mean, I think I had the chart here. Or if the court pays you. So it gives a good explanation of who pays what.
Okay.
Which is neat. But it did go up to 70.
Okay.
But
so anything else that you feel is pressing right now? I know there's some stuff in this the new big beautiful bill that is going to offset, taxes on overtime and different things like that.
If it goes through,
If it goes through,
yeah.
I think we have some. By the time this episode's out, it will have gone through.
Yeah.
So we'll have more answers then. But any concerns with what's in that bill?
I think the bigger concern with some of these items being eliminated from taxes is obviously, I've heard it from employees saying, well, that lowers what's going into my Social Security.
Yeah.
Particularly tipped employees, where a majority of their money is coming from tips.
Yep.
And yes, can they pay in separately? Of course they could, but who wants to do that?
Not my generation, but they don't understand that part of it because we don't expect Social Security to be around when we are ready to collect
exactly.
it. So I don't think much of my generation cares as much. They'd rather have the money now and know they have it now than maybe have it later.
Yep.
So I understand the newer generation's mentality on it,
Mm-hmm.
but at the end of the day, it still hurts other generations.
Well, so then what New York State has put in, other states have adopted this as well, but New York State is, which has been was supposed to go into effect last year and it didn't, is the Secure Act and, enforcing a pension plan for employers. Any employer with 5 employees or more has to put in a pension plan. So this is going to go into effect. The date of when New York State's going to start forcing it hasn't hit yet.
Elaborate on a pension plan as far as like
retirement.
401k plan.
401k or simple IRA, either or, but the employer must contribute. And the employer's contribution is going to be 3%.
And now,
regardless of,
no matter your status with the company as an employee, but they have to contribute in order for you to match. No, you have to contribute no matter what.
You have to contribute no matter what. Yep.
So what is going to be the minimum contribution?
3%.
So every single employee is going to have to be getting 3% in an IRA.
IRA or 401k. Yep. And if you don't do it through a separate advisor or a separate broker, there will be a state program, and I highly advise to go through an advisor.
Yeah. Well, we have our 401k set up, but now it opens up Pandora's box when you're
changes.
When it's certain divisions maybe get it, and then but you know what? I'm not opposed to it. I think it gives you some employee retention, but if everyone's going to have to do it, it doesn't differentiate you much.
Exactly. And the idea is that not enough people are putting away for retirement.
Yeah.
So I think the idea of this offsets the Social Security.
Yeah.
You're now forced to have something away.
Yeah.
And there is tax benefits to the employer when you're utilizing it as a pre-tax, but
not a lot. Nothing that's going to really move the needle. But,
exactly. But they're,
I haven't seen much favorable to the employer, and I was actually a little taken back in that new bill that there was not much favorable to the employer there.
Yeah, it's becoming more and more employee friendly as time goes on.
I think everything in New York is employee friendly.
Yep.
And sometimes make me scratch my head on how many businesses I really do want to own one day.
Exactly.
So it's really not favorable to the employer in any way.
It's not. So. But what I will recommend is anything you do, you document.
Yeah.
Even when it comes to your employees, document everything.
Yeah.
Because that's the downfall with a lot of employers is, well, I told them this or I told them that. If you document it and then you have the ability for disciplinary action or coaching or training, whatever you need, but if a disgruntled employee comes back and you have documentation, you're in much better shape than if you didn't.
It's really, and the employees don't always understand. Sometimes the documentation is just like a CYA kind of thing, and they think it's like they're in trouble. It's not. The write-ups are just to document. It's not like, hey, I have a target on your back and I'm going to fire you. You're next on my, you're next on my list, and I'm just building up my case against you. That's not at all what it is. It's we're being coached by our HR, by our employment attorneys, by our payroll company to say, hey, this is what happened. You need to document these things.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You hit the nail on the head. Documentation is everything, and having that backup, having it in writing, not a verbal. If there's a text message that went through, screenshot it, put it in the employee's file. You know, if there's an email that went out, document it, put it in the in the employee's file. You never know which way that it's going to go. But unfortunately, as an employer, you have to always be on the defense.
Absolutely.
Be a little more cynical than I used to be in the past. Yeah. So now we have a great experience, obviously, with you guys. We love working with you. How can other people get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me directly, either through, right on our website, we have a contact information, sales@pbipayroll.com, or call into the office at 516-338-5454. You can ask for me. That would probably be the best way. Yeah, that would be the best way, and my team will get me, and they'll get the message to me if I'm not in the office.
There has not been one person that I've had to figure out, work with their little frustration on reverse wires, but not on your part. That was lovely, Chase Bank. But ultimately, every obstacle that we've gotten through, we've figured.
We get creative too, within reason of compliance. We get creative,
right on, quick with it. Quick responses. It's not like dealing with these corporate companies that really you're just another.
Yeah, we still answer the phone.
A customer.
Yeah,
and it shows.
Yeah, and we've wanted to maintain that. We wanted the best technology, which we do have, but we also still wanted to pick up the phone and be able to talk to our clients and have that relationship with the client. Nothing makes me happier than when I hear my team laughing with my clients over the phone and having a conversation about their vacation or a kid.
Were you there when I told Joe that Joe got on the phone with me the other day, and he told me something came up and I had to get on the phone with Chris, and I said, yeah, I think he needs a raise. Actually, I think you should give him a bonus. You should buy him a Rolex. And Chris heard, and Joe's like, okay, I'm getting off the phone with you now.
Yeah.
So,
but that's the relationship.
Chris told me he was going to sell it on eBay, though.
Yeah, there you go. You'll make money, right? That's the smart way to do it.
Like, then just give him the bonus. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But I really appreciate your time. I appreciate everything you do for us, and honestly,
and we appreciate you guys.
Payroll company, PBI is where it's at. We've been through the experience of a lot of not so great companies, and PBI has blown it out of the park every single time. So thank you guys for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.